You'd think the TVA being all powerful could replace all of those files with like Microsoft Access or something. Welcome back to yet another week of Pod Freak, episode 9 to be exact. And in this episode of Pod Freak, we're going to be going over episode 2 of Loki. Before we start talking about the show, obviously spoilers if you have not seen Loki episode 2 yet. So stop listening now in 3, 2, 1. Like you probably noticed, this one is on Friday. That's because I was out of town up until Wednesday night. Going forward, the Loki episodes will be posted on Thursdays. If something else comes up, I'll be sure to let you know. Unfortunately, because of that, I am not watching this the second I finished, I'm not recording this the second that I finished watching the new episode of Loki. So it's not all fresh in my mind. So I might have to kind of talk through it and remind myself of some of the stuff that I watched. So in this episode, Loki decides to join the TVA because he sees it as his only option. They go on a mission together. Mobius's boss isn't too keen on it. He kind of stalls for time and makes them redline, which basically means that they're in danger of messing up the timeline. They have to get out of there. And then from there on, Mobius is basically like, he got one more chance, and Loki has to figure it out. And he actually does some research and is able to figure out for the people that that the Loki variant may be hiding in apocalypses, because basically if there's an apocalypse, it covers all of the tracks of any sort of branching paths that could theoretically exist. And then after that happens, they won't notice it because it won't pop up on their radar. And then they discover that, they find out where they think the Loki variant is going to be hiding, and they track her down. So that's the basic rundown of the actual episode. I'm going to have to go back in and put a spoiler warning in there somewhere, but I can do that. That's no worry. I know it's probably pretty obvious, but just a courtesy, you know. But I thought this episode dragged a little bit, and when I say that, I don't mean that I thought it was a bad episode, and it could have been that I was watching it on a plane and I was a little nauseous because the person kept the window open. But all in all, there's a lot of cool stuff to work with here. Most notably, not most notably, I'll just start with the things as they come to me. So one thing I noticed about this show that I really, really loved, that was more evident in this episode than it was the first one, is this show is going to be consistently filled with opportunities for us to analyze what Loki is saying and determine if it is a lie. At any given time, you never know if Loki is truly changing to be a better person, and if he is changing to be a better person, you don't know if he is lying, who he's lying to at any given time, because even when Loki has good intentions, it doesn't necessarily mean that he won't be a trickster to get his way. It's in his nature. I'm pretty sure we saw some of that even in Ragnarok, where he pulled out some tricks to help save the day and help Thor and all that. So at any given time, you don't know if he's lying to Mobius. You don't know if he's lying to the Loki variant. You don't know if he is lying, if his intention is to try to trick them so he can do the right thing, or if he is serving himself. You don't know if he's joining the TVA, if he's joining the Loki variant, if he's joining neither. And because of that, you kind of have to try to look into the way he's delivering his lines, think about his character motivations, and determine for yourself what exactly he is trying to accomplish. It's kind of like the mystery of WandaVision, but without like the mystery is not because they haven't told us stuff. The mystery is because we're seeing everything play out in real life, and we know what the actual circumstances are. We just don't know what's going on in Loki's head, which is really fascinating, really intriguing writing. This episode stepped away from the idea of identity, who you are, if that really matters, if you are the true Loki, which kind of bummed me out, but they still have opportunities to go back to that later. What they did focus a bit more on, and I am also a fan because it's still introspective, philosophical garbage that I eat up like candy, is it talked a lot about free will, and if you do have free will, is any decision, or if you don't have free will, is any decision you make truly bad or truly good? I think that idea both hurt Loki, but also kind of excited him. And I think that's what got the cogs turning, which is leading to wherever we're going in the next episode. I do think that he has a legitimate relationship with Mobius. I think he likes Mobius, even if he is willing to stab him in the back. I think there's something legitimate there. I do not think he trusts the rest of the TVA, quite honestly, because none of the rest of the TVA seem to trust him. And I think that he is also skeptical of their intentions. So the question remains, is the antagonist going to be the Loki variant, or is the antagonist going to be the almighty timekeepers, or perhaps a bit of both? If you made me guess right now, I honestly am under the impression that perhaps it's going to be the timekeepers. And if not the timekeepers, maybe more on the scale of the bit of both, right? Because they've already started laying seeds of doubt into whether or not what the timekeepers are doing is actually the right thing, and if they actually have altruistic intentions. Perhaps it was a situation where they started with intentions of preventing a multiversal war, and it's spiraled out of control to eliminating the integrity of self and free will and different things like that. And I think this show is going to tackle that more. And when I first started watching this from the first episode, I thought this was going to end with Loki failing in his endeavors, or him thwarting the TVA's endeavors, and basically the bad guy winning, and then the multiversal war expands from there. But perhaps it'll be something where they absolutely lose track of the timeline. In this episode, I think you've kind of already seen that that's out the window. I don't even know if that's really, if it's really an obtainable goal at this point to put the timeline back in action after what the Loki variant did. Lady Loki, I guess I can just say Lady Loki. We've all seen the show if you're this far in the podcast. But perhaps it's actually going to be an altruistic endeavor to restore free will that will lead to the multiverse. And we might get another multiversal war, but as Loki said, nobody who is truly good is good, and nobody is truly bad is bad. And maybe this show is basically going to say that even if a multiversal war occurs, it is better because it was the result of people making their own choices and actions, which I don't know. And, you know, even within Christianity, with Calvinism versus Arminianism, there's already a huge debate over stuff like that. If my decisions can truly be good if I didn't make the decision to have them and if they were predestined, or if God's decisions can truly be good simply because he dictated that it be so if they cause pain and suffering to people. And that's already a debate within Christianity. I imagine that will be something that you can do in this show. And either way, there are gray areas, because on one point, you know, the timekeepers are preventing this multiversal war. But on the other point, they are allowing bad things to happen merely because they are supposed to happen. And Loki talked a lot about the chaos of free will and how chaos can be good. And basically, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but it's this idea that can something truly be good if it was just meant to be, and can something truly be bad if it was meant to be? Because anything Loki did that was bad was only allowed to happen because the timekeepers let it happen. And is it okay to take away people's free will if it means that you are is it okay to take away people's free will just to prevent this bad thing from happening? If in the process, one, you are forcing your own will onto other people rather than letting them make their own decisions, and two, more importantly, if in the venture to that end, you are allowing other bad things to happen, right? Like, is the multiversal war really all that much better than what Thanos was allowed to do? And admittedly, it was in the timeline for him to be stopped, but in a process to that end, there were still many, many people who died up to that point. Is it really okay to preserve a sacred timeline in the name of preventing this war and making sure that all is as it's supposed to be, if in the process you are also allowing people to make free choices that cause just as much suffering? Are you really accomplishing your goal in that end? And I suspect that Lady Loki has these same ideas that Loki has, that he's already mentioned to the TVA, and that is why she is destroying the timeline. She's destroying the timeline so that she can stop the TVA and making everyone do exactly what they think they're supposed to do to keep the almighty timeline intact. To summarize, at the end of this discussion, there is a great Shinedown lyric that says, "There is a hard life for every silver spoon. There's a hard life for every silver spoon. There is a touch of gray for every shade of blue. That's the way that I see life. If there was nothing wrong, then there'd be nothing right." In the context of this show, basically what that would mean is that bad things have to happen so that good things are truly good in comparison. And as a means to that end, they have to happen because someone decided that they wanted to make that choice. It's a philosophical circle. We could go on and on all day, but I think that I've covered it pretty well, even if I haven't reached a conclusion that gives me that satisfactory feeling in my gut. I think you get where I'm coming at. And so we may jump back to Identity, but I think that that's going to be the larger driving force going forward. And I guess we'll see. The only other thing that I wanted to really say about this episode is that at the end of the episode, when Lady Loki basically performs the timeline bombing and she ditches and, she skedaddles through that door, as Mobius is running towards Loki, knowing what has happened, and Loki seeing him, knowing that he doesn't know that Lady Loki was there, and also knowing that nobody in the TVA trusts him or likes him, he looks back and he thinks, I truly believe that when he looks back, he was thinking, I wanted to try to do the right thing because I realized I couldn't go back anyway. And at least this way, maybe I'll have some sort of purpose, or at least what he views to be the right thing. But on the other hand, he already has doubts about the TVA's intentions. And more importantly, he knows that if he stays there and he listens to Mobius when he says him to stop, even if Mobius trusts him, which I think he does, I really think that he does, he goes back and shares his story, nobody's going to believe him. And you can see, he's so conflicted. He's heartbroken because Mobius has given him this chance that, depending on who you ask, he didn't deserve. I think he deserved it, but they certainly didn't think that he did. And he probably didn't think that he did after watching all the horrible things that his actions led to play out on screen. He looks at Mobius calling to him, trusting him, knowing that if he goes back, he's probably deleted. So he follows Lady Loki anyway, which is going to provide some awesome dialogue opportunities in the next episode. And I think that these themes that I am predicting or anticipating will truly be opened up in full fashion on the next episode. It's intriguing. I know that I talked a little bit about how it cheapens some of the stuff that has come before in the last episode by saying that it was all basically just predestined to happen and that they never really stood a chance of losing because it was always in the cards that they had to win. But by the same token, we didn't know that when we watched through those movies for the first time. So their integrity to me, the stakes were still very real to us as we experienced them in real time. And yeah, there's absolutely an opportunity, a possibility that someone's going to watch this before they watch those. And that's kind of a bummer, but you can still lose yourself in the moment. I think at the end of the day, we all knew that they were always going to win in every movie we watched anyway, because it would be a bad ending. The only exception is Avengers Infinity War. And I hear some people talk about how when they watched Avengers Infinity War, they were so gutted because they didn't expect them to lose. But I was like, it's part one of two. Even before they, even after they changed it from Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2 to Avengers Infinity War and, title to be confirmed and eventually Endgame, we always knew that there was two movies as a part of that story, as a part of that blow-off. So while I don't know if I fully anticipated that Thanos was going to succeed in his snap, I absolutely didn't expect for them to win by the end of it. So that's the only exception. It was really a predictable one. All the other ones, of course, they're going to win. They're the good guys. That's how the movies work. Somebody might die in the process, but that still holds weight, even if it was, quote unquote, predestined, if you ask me. And going forward, it certainly won't matter because if you've looked at the titles and the casting confirmations for the upcoming projects, it's pretty clear that going forward, we will definitely be having a multiverse. Will they wrap it all back up into one timeline by the end of this phase? Maybe, but I really don't think so. And I think they're going to justify that by using this show to show that the timekeepers are the ones who are in the wrong. I think that's a good note to end on. We might have kind of babbled a little bit more than we needed to, but I think that wraps everything up with a nice bow. We're right at about 15 minutes, which is about what I shoot for. As always, follow me on Twitter for general chit-chat at ClockworthClone. Please tag me, continue the conversation to show me that you're listening and that you have thoughts on Loki as well. I'd love to talk to you there. Follow me on TikTok at ClockworthClone for video game content. We've got upcoming series. Right now, we're just kind of posting what I come to daily, but I'm working on some high-effort series that will be posted at a later point in time. But we talk video games there, and it's a fun time. YouTube and Instagram are TikTok repost as far as now, but hey, follow me if you want to anyway. That is all that I've got for you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week about the next episode of Loki. Bye-bye.